Hello and welcome to CoreTV News at 4. I am Omotayo Alo. The Court of Appeal has unanimously upheld the election of Senate Minority Leader Godswill Akpabio as the duly elected representative of Akwa Ibom Northwest Senatorial District. In the judgment delivered by Justice Moshood Oredola, the three-man panel dismissed the appeal filed by Inebi Okori for lack of merit. Justice Oredola said that Senator Akpabio met the requirement of Section 65, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution, which states that a person can only contest an election if he is a member of a political party and is sponsored by that party. Although the panel held that there was an error in one of the nomination papers which indicated that Senator Akpabio stood for election for Akwa Ibom Northeast, it noted that the mistake was successfully corrected in all other documents. Former President of the Senate, David Mark, has stepped up his campaign for the rerun election by urging his supporters to see it as a challenge for the emancipation of Idoma people. He said this when he played host to the state leadership of the People's Democratic Party in Otukpo, Benue State. The reception was in the aftermath of the annulment of his election by appeal court in Makurdi. The statement issued by his media aide, Paul Mume, indicates that the PDP leaders expressed reservations about the verdict, but are confident that the rerun will prove that the former Senate President won the Benue South senatorial seat fairly. For his part, Senator Mark appealed for calm and described the forthcoming election as an opportunity to say no to those he described as external forces, and maintained that a party that produced a senator, 4 members of the House of Representatives and 10 out of the 11 State House Assembly members is fully on ground. Earlier, the paramount ruler of Idoma land, Ikoyi Ogbekpa, told Senator Mark that he should not worry about the tribunal's verdict, that he remains the people's choice. The 2016 budgetary allocation of 500 billion naira by the federal government can be described as a huge step towards catering for the masses. As some Nigerians are of the view that the projects will go a long way in bridging the financial downturn of the unemployed youth and graduates in Nigeria. Akin Obake has the details.
The 6 trillion naira proposed budget for the 2016 fiscal year by President Muhammadu Buhari has brought about diverse reactions. Most recently is the allocation of 500 billion naira for unemployed graduates and feeding of school children, amongst other social welfare programs. Meanwhile, contrary opinions of some Nigerians on its workability and the role government has to play in luring donor agencies and development partners keying into the social welfare program.
The first 3 or 6 months, federal government must do what is necessary to ensure and to give comfort to all these donor agencies for them to know that if they push their funds to for this program, it will be used judiciously. Donor agencies, they are not Father Christmas. For them to really bring in money, they want to wait for the next 3 months. They want to see how the federal government fund is being used.
Chances of it working is only in the degree to which it will work. I feel that it will not work so well because the money is not enough. So it's going to work for few people who are able to access it. Otherwise, the rest that will access it are people on the charity payroll. Program will work, but the dimension to which it will work is the issue.
For his part, this analyst believes the state government should work tirelessly in ensuring that people at the grassroots benefit from the initiative, leaving no room for leakages and minimizing potential risk on the program.
But what I can authoritatively say is they need to put proper structure in place. If not, it will turn to a jumble.
As part of the campaign promises of the Buhari-led administration, it is expected that the federal government will ensure the program is duly monitored and implemented. Akin Obake, CoreTV News, Lagos.
The federal government is seeking the support of Islamic clerics in an effort to de-radicalize youth. who have embraced religious extremism. Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed said this at a one-day seminar with religious leaders organized by the National Orientation Agency in Abuja. He reaffirmed government's commitment to defeating Boko Haram, but noted that the input of religious leaders are needed for a successful war against insurgency. Kazim Kasali has more in this report presented from our studio.
The minister told religious leaders about government's determination to win the war against insurgency, but made it clear that their input is a vital part of the war. He added that from what he saw during his visit to the front lines, the troops have done a great job. The minister explained that the task of the radicalizing repentant members of the insurgent group and other related groups lies with religious leaders who must show the real nature of the faith to all Nigerians.
There is a need to de-radicalize those who have been exposed to extremist and violent view of religion, especially in the Northeast. It is important for you, our religious leaders, to highlight the pristine and unadulterated version of the two dominant religious faiths, Christianity and Islam, to remind all the adults of both faiths that nowhere did any of them preach hatred or violence.
For the National Orientation Agency, the thinking behind the initiative is to enhance the nation's security, as well as also use the platform for the germination of new and implementable ideas.
This is a conversation aimed at enhancing our security awareness and alertness. This is a conversation that we hope will produce more strategies, implementable ones that we will not have to go and hang on the shelf and set up other committees to look at.
Religious leaders, including the primate of the Anglican Church, Nicholas Oko, and Nuru Khalil, chief imam of Akko Central Mosque, called on all Nigerians to join hands to tackle the menace of insecurity. For them, all Nigerians are targets of Boko Haram, irrespective of religion, creed, or tribe.
We support any effort to bring about peace. When you look at it, you cannot have any economic pursuit without peace. You cannot go to school without peace. Even those in politics, there will be no politics to play if there is no peace.
Security issues are very regular, every regular person's duty. We must continue to support every program set aside by the government for the purpose of de-radicalization of thoughts and reinterrogation of regretted, apologized, and repentant radical youth.
The meeting is part of the final push to defeat Boko Haram and is expected to help in ensuring the return of Nigerians in the Northeast whose normal day-to-day activities have been affected by the insurgency. Kazim Kasali, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The federal government has filed more charges against former National Security Advisor, retired Colonel Sambo Dasuki. Dasuki, who is still in detention, is accused of extra budgetary spending of 643.8 billion naira and an additional $2.2 billion. He is to be arraigned on Monday alongside Salisu Shuaibu, a former director of finance in his office, Aminu Babakusa, a former group executive director of NNPC, Akia Odins Limited, and Reliance Referral Hospital Limited at an Abuja High Court. Shuaibu is the director that told the investigators they delivered $47 million in suit cases at the home of the former National Security Advisor and instruction. Also to be arraigned, former Sokoto State Governor Atahiru Bafarawa, his son Sage, former Minister of National Planning Bashel Yuguda, and Dahatu Investments Limited. They had to face separate charges over alleged diversion of over 10 billion naira meant for arms purchase. The two groups of accused persons are to be arraigned on Monday, December the 14th. Edo State Governor Adams Oshiomhole is insisting that former President Goodluck Jonathan and former Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala must face prosecution over the alleged arms purchase scandal. Oshiomhole said this on the sideline of an event in commemoration of the International Human Rights Day in Abuja. He maintained that anyone involved in spending part of the recovered Abacha loot without appropriation must face justice. The police authorities have cautioned Nigerians not to be fooled by the enlisting into the police to beware of fraudsters operating on Facebook or other social website platforms. The warning, according to the first public relations officer, Olabisi Kolawole, says that no recruitment or enlistment exercise is taking place and presently at the force headquarters or at any of its institutions, commands or formations. She maintained that the police will duly inform the general public whenever it intends to commence recruitment of personnel through appropriate channels, including public advertisement in the media. We take a break now, and when we come back, we bring you more stories on the news at this hour. Stay with us.
Some pundits believe that as long as the political system is driven by selected few, corruption may be difficult to fight.
You should be careful about what you say.
I am not the only politician. Even if I've wronged anyone, it is time to forgive me.
Political Arena every Sunday at 9:15 p.m. and a repeat broadcast every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m.
Welcome. If you're just joining us, it's CoreTV News at 4. For more of the news and information, visit our social media platform, facebook.com/CoreTV News, our Twitter handle at CoreTV News NG. You could get more on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoreTV, leave a space and news. The Senate is seeking more stringent punishment for those involved in manufacture and distribution of fake drugs and unwholesome processed food in the country. The federal lawmakers say safer penalties will help curb the spread of counterfeit drugs. The suggestion was part of the debate on a bill for an act to amend the counterfeit fake drugs and unwholesome processed food laws, sponsored by Senator Biodun Olujimi. Basi Aye has the report.
Taking the lead debate, Senator Olujimi pointed out the ills associated with these sharp practices by some individuals and companies to the detriment of Nigerians. In her view, all hands must be on deck to stem the tide of fake and counterfeit consumables.
Drug faking and counterfeiting is the greatest evil of our time and the highest weapon of terrorism against public health, as well as an act of economic sabotage. It is an ill wind that blows nobody good. The evil of fake drugs is worse than the combined scourge of malaria, HIV/AIDS, and armed robbery put together. This is because malaria can be prevented, HIV/AIDS can be avoided, and armed robbery may kill a few at a time, but counterfeit/fake drugs kill en masse.
The bill enjoyed the support of senators who cited its importance to the health and well-being of citizens. They insist on the need to send a strong message to the perpetrators of the act that the battle is still on.
We need to get to the root of the matter. Those who aid, abet, import, transport, sell counterfeit drugs need to be brought to book.
A punishment for trafficking in this fake drug is not sufficient. It's not sufficient. The committee that will eventually handle it should be able to prescribe very severe punishment for those who are trafficking in this fake drug. In addition, there should also be a special court to try these drug offenders.
All those want laws that will empower countries where the fake drugs are manufactured to prosecute those found culpable.
The fact that a Nigerian comes to India to make fake drugs does not give the Indian government the right not to prosecute a manufacturer of fake drugs to be sold in Nigeria to kill innocent people. I just want to make that point. It's a question of supply and demand, and the Chinese and the Indians are just as guilty as the man selling it on the street.
We'll be stringent enough, tough enough. The enforcement agencies who have the responsibilities to do so will have laws that will actually deal with those precisely. We must make it unprofitable. We must make it that it has serious penalties so that the cabals who are doing this business will go and look for another business.
The bill was referred to the Committees on Health as well as Drugs and Narcotics for further legislative action. Basia Ye, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The House of Representatives on Thursday pushed 130 bills through first reading. It is the first time in recent history that such amount of bills will scale first reading in one legislative day. The bills include the Corporate Manslaughter Bill 2015 by Speaker Yakubu Dogara, People's Bank of Nigeria Act Repeal Bill, Food, Drugs and Related Act Bill, Treaty to establish the African Union Ratification and Enforcement, Telecommunications and Postal Offences Act. Some of the authors are the Corrupt Practice and Other Related Offences Act Amendment of 2015 and the National Identity Management Commission Act Amendment Bill of 2015. The House of Representatives has recommended that victims of the 2014 immigration recruitment stampede be immediately given their appointment letters. The lawmakers say the refusal to issue letters to them constitute a violation of a presidential directive. National Assembly correspondent Jamil Afegwa has more on Thursday's proceedings.
Tens of thousands of job seekers turned out for the nationwide immigration recruit exercise, which ended in tragedy with many dying and several others injured. But a directive by former President Goodluck Jonathan to the Immigration Service to give families of the affected persons job has not been carried out. This prompted an investigation by the House of Representatives.
Nothing has happened to change that. So why have they not been given their employment? So if this House is agreeable for us to include that in the scope, we have taken testimonies on it. If we are agreeable to include that in the scope, then I will suggest an amendment to an additional recommendation that the 2,000 prospective employees be given immediate employment.
Some of the members are worried that some victims could no longer work.
The member of this committee, three-man committee, I should shed light on what actually transpired. During our investigation, we found out that the Presidential Committee was given a mandate to give automatic employment to relatives of those that are deceased and those that are injured. But after the exercise, they went ultra-virus, that is beyond their powers, and started recruiting people up to 2,000. So this is outside the mandate of this committee. So now what we are proposing is, because as Speaker rightly said earlier, that you cannot train people in weapons handling and then you just abandon them. They've been given letters. So I was hoping that we confided with the chairman of the committee that we should add additional recommendation, which when we come to it, we will now propose as to what to do in respect of this 2,000.
This House should mandate its committee on legislative compliance to ensure that this recommendation is carried out. Because if the president's recommendation has not been done, I mean, the directive has not been done, we are not sure that what we are recommending here can be done.
Honorable colleagues, is that the true position of what went in the committee of the whole?
In another development, the House has called on the federal government to immediately look into the plight of Nigerian students on education exchange programs in different parts of the world. It observed that the students have not been paid their stipends for several months, leaving many of them stranded.
The House further notes that the Ministry of Education, in conjunction with the Scholarship Board, have purportedly abandoned the students to their fate in the academy by refusing to pay the stipends, thus exposing the students to their situation that might lure them into illegitimate work for survival. These stipends for supplementation in their bill, $250 yearly for clothing, $200 yearly for health services, $500 yearly only for medical students, and $1,000 just for PG graduates on research.
The motion has been referred to the Committee on Tertiary Education and Foreign Relations for legislative input. Jamil Afegwa, CoreTV News.
Members of the Western Zone of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria have appealed to the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation to consider its members while supplying fuel and not limited to major marketers alone in order to cushion the effect of fuel shortage in the country. Briefing newsmen after its emergency meeting in Ilorin, the Southwest Zonal Chairman of IPMAN, Debo Ahmed, also called for the supply of fuel to most government depots in the zone which presently do not have fuel.
And we are one of the chains within the channels of product distribution in Nigeria. We do own depots, DAPA own depots. We have our filling stations where we sell our products. Like if a depot is about 6 months, it has not been loading, or a depot is about 2 years now, it has not been loading. Ilorin depot is 1 year. Musini and Ijibo, they have been epileptic. So we depend solely on what probably the government brings to all these private depots. So we are therefore appealing to NNPC to accelerate the supplies of PMS in particular to independent marketers. And they should at least not concentrate so much on major marketers depot, to try as much as possible to let Ilorin depot function, let Ibadan depot function, let Ore depot function. Ilorin and Ibadan depot can even be made a bridging depot that will help in even reducing the subsidy, some of these expenses or the costs in bridging. The same thing to Ibadan.
Commenting on the non-availability of kerosene, the IPMAN chairman also pleaded for the transfer of their request of kerosene to Lagos in order to sell off at official price and also reduce the shortage in the market.
Almost 1 billion for kerosene to be lifted almost 19 good months ago. The tickets were submitted to Warri. Warri supposed to have loaded us. And since Warri got broke down, nothing has happened. But the kerosene, we have some minor kerosenes in Lagos. If the government can, if NNPC can probably transfer our tickets to Lagos, we can load these tickets because it has taken long. A lot of us took the money from banks. It's a loan from the bank. So the money is tied down and nobody is helping us in that aspect. That is that one.
As the petition and social media view continues to elicit reactions, politicians have been accused of setting bad precedent using petitions and the social media to settle political scores. It is suggested that social media activities, can only be condoned, urging the federal government to put in place sanitizing measures instead of a total clampdown. This is the position of some media stakeholders who met in Ado-Ekiti at a public lecture held on the social media bill. Rashid reports.
Media has no doubt come to stay as a means of communication, campaign, entertainment, and is now seen as critical melting point of ideas. And now that the Nigerian Senate proposes a bill on the clampdown of illicit information, reactions continue to pour in. At this forum having media practitioners, journalists are of the view that negative reports that pervade the social media is the handiwork of the political leaders.
Most of our politicians have turned to social media to attack themselves. This is not good for us. We are talking of investment. We want to bring people here. Whatever you pass on the social media definitely goes around the world. And as a result of this, it will be used to judge us. It will be used to weigh us. And it will be used to know whether they should come to Nigeria or not.
While journalists uphold the above assertion, politicians say the social media, though having its impact, should not be gagged but regulated.
So if it's to regulate, I think it's welcome development. Social media is a platform where youths express themselves, and is their right, the expression, freedom of expression. But when it's been abused, there may be need to regulate it.
The social media should be regulated in such a way as not to muzzle it, but to make sure that it functions in order for the Nigerian state to be integrated.
While most politicians rode on the activities on the social media to convince the minds of the electorate, the fight rages on. Nigerians and indeed the Senate are no doubt set for a showdown, which is largely fought on the social media. Rashid, CoreTV News, Ado Ekiti.
Lagos State Governor Akinwumi Ambode says 24-hour power supply will boost business and increase the state's gross domestic product, and that his government is ready to achieve the target. The governor also urged individuals, private homes and corporate organizations to take up any street of their choice and light them up with connections to their meters and generators, saying the government would give concessions to them in the payment of their annual land use charges. The governor spoke at the Lagos House Ikeja while inaugurating the Power Committee, which is to transform the government's dream into reality, saying the power supply challenge must be overcome in order to achieve sustainable economic growth. Safety in the Nigeria's airspace is of much worrisome and concern, particularly in the light of air crashes and mishaps that have plagued Nigeria's aviation industry in 10 years since the crash of the now moribund airline that killed 103 people and 2 survivors. The aviation sector in Nigeria is still grappling with safety standards. Our correspondent Sarah Ayeku has more.
Safety at airports can only be achieved by collaboration among the various stakeholders in the aviation industry. These are the words of the area manager for Southwest Africa International Air Transport Association, IATA. With the volume of cargo nosediving in the cargo and passenger patronages, the aviation industry seems to be experiencing several challenges ranging from policy implementation, insecure airspace and ports, amongst others. While some experts think that the national carrier is a failure, these experts say otherwise.
That's no position for or against. You have national carriers that are doing very well, and there are national carriers that are doing poorly. You have private carriers that are doing very well, and you have private carriers or non-national carriers that are doing poorly. Being private, being or national carrier is not a guarantee for profitability.
To the Minister of Aviation, the President of the Association of Foreign Airlines and Representatives in Nigeria reels out how Nigeria's aviation sector can rebound.
3 key sectors. We should look at our airports, remodeling them at least, so that it can be world standard. It can be something that we can look with, at with pride. The cargo apron is still not, the expansion has not even begun. We're still using the old apron of the 707s, the 727s. Nothing has changed. So, if that can also be looked into, and the safety part of the airports generally, runways, illumination and all that.
But not so for another key player in the sector, who believes that it's still a long way for the aviation sector to meet world-class standards.
Government owns about 19 airports in this country. Quite a lot of them are very unviable. And if they are not viable, how do you get resources to maintain the basic thing, security, safety? We should now sit down and find out, does Nigerian government has the capacity to maintain 22 airports.
The unification of the immigration, customs, military and paramilitary officers with the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria and the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, these experts say, will bring growth in the industry. Sarah Ayeku, CoreTV News, Lagos.
Nigeria has moved off the investment chart in Africa with a $573.6 billion investment portfolio. This is over $200 billion more than the South Africa with $350.3 billion. These figures were released at an event held in Abuja to explore investment opportunities in Africa. More details in our subsequent bulletins. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll bring you stories from outside Nigeria and more.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, our 24-hour news station.
Welcome. On the foreign scene, President Vladimir Putin has ordered the Russian military to take extremely tough action against any threat to its forces in Syria. However, Putin did not elaborate on specific threats, but Turkey and Russia are currently locked in a spat over the downing of a Russian jet by Ankara. Turkey says the bomber had entered its airspace, but Russia has insisted that the plane did not cross the border and that it gave advance notice of the flight path to the U.S. A Russian pilot was killed in the downing of the Su-24 bomber as a Marine sent on a rescue mission, badly damaging the normally close ties between Ankara and Moscow. A Kurdish Arab coalition fighting the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant ISIL group has announced the creation of a political wing after a two-day conference in Syria's northeastern town of al-Mikaya. The formation of the Syrian Democratic Council was approved at a meeting which was attended by the Democratic Union Party, PYD, the largest Kurdish group, and its armed wing, the YPG. The group's allies, the Syrian Democratic Forces, were not invited to Saudi Arabia. The SDF formed in October groups the powerful Kurdish People's Protection Unit, YPG, with smaller Arab and Christian armed groups in a coalition intended to confront ISIL. Heavily armed attackers have launched coordinated assault in several army barracks in Burundi. An army spokesman said in a statement that 12 insurgents had been killed and another 20 arrested. The incident is the worst violence since an attempted coup in May sparked by President Pierre Nkurunziza's third-term bid. UN officials have recently accused both government and opposition figures of stirring up ethnic tension between Hutus and Tutsis amid fears of a return to genocide. A court in the Indian city of Mumbai has pardoned an American national of Pakistani origin as part of a possible deal allowing him to give evidence about his involvement in the 2008 Mumbai attacks. David Hartley appeared in court on Thursday via video link from the United States, where he is serving a 35-year jail sentence for his role in the attacks that killed at least 166 people and for conspiring to attack a Danish newspaper. Hartley earlier told the court he would appear as a witness if he was pardoned. The finance chief of Islamic State, IS, has been killed in an airstrike by the U.S.-led coalition. A U.S. military spokesman say Muwafaq Mustafa Mohammed Al-Kamosh, a.k.a. Abu Saleh, and two other senior leaders were killed in the strikes which took place in recent weeks. The coalition has been carrying out airstrikes against IS militants in Iraq and Syria from over a year. U.S. military spokesman Colonel Steve Warren confirmed that Colonel Warren called Abu Salah one of the most senior and experienced members of the militant group's financial network. China is to receive a $300 million loan from the Asian Development Bank, ADB, to help it combat dangerous pollution levels in the Beijing city and its surrounding area. The ADB said that poor air quality had reached such a serious level that it was jeopardizing health and sustainable growth. The loan is intended to cut the region's coal use, among other pollution issues. China is the world's biggest polluter. Despite large investment in renewable sources, China still depends on coal for more than 600 of its power. And to the world of sports, former Super Eagles coach Stephen Keshi has confirmed the sudden death of his wife, Kate, in the United States. Keshi, who revealed that his wife had been sick for a while, said he never expected that the sickness would lead to a death. He, however, revealed that the burial arrangement will be made public in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Football Federation, NFF, condoles with the former head coach, Stephen Keshi. FIFA's Ethics Committee says it has completed its investigation into the conduct of FIFA Presidents Sepp Blatter and UEFA head Michel Platini and requested sanctions against both of them. The report was submitted to FIFA's ethics judge Hans Joachim Eckert for a final decision. The men face much longer bans if FIFA adopts the recommendation of the committee, which in Platini's case would mean it will also lose his position as UEFA president. Hit by a series of scandals over the past few years, FIFA was thrown into turmoil in May by the U.S. indictment of 14 football officials, including 2 FIFA vice presidents and sports marketing executives, for alleged corruption. The organization's awarding of World Cup tournament to Germany, Russia and Qatar has been subject to scrutiny and charges of corruption. Blatter also faces a criminal investigation in Switzerland over a $2.1 million payment from FIFA to Platini, but both men have denied any wrongdoing. And it's a wrap on CoreTV News at 4. Thank you so very much for joining us. My name is Omotayo. Hello, good afternoon.